All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to HSHL Conferences Draw for Season 13. It's kind of becoming a tradition with the design that you're seeing right now, but to be fair, it just looks so good. The wheel and then the dog in the background, everything feels so smooth. At least it's just my opinion. You might have a different one, but it's just aesthetically pleasing for me. You guys know how the draw works, same as usual. We've got the teams, you can see the pots in the bottom left. They have been published earlier on in the announcements channel. You can see the conferences are back because we've got more signups than last season. 22 teams, the highest amount that this league has ever seen. So shout out to everyone that's actually participating this season. And that also brings the formula for the playoffs that was published but wasn't announced, but now there's a confirmation. Top 8 from each conference will make through, so that means every single team that will play in playoffs starts off in a round of 16. I don't think you're here for the formal stuff. I'm guessing you just want to see who's in your conference. So let's start it off. We've got the pot number 5 on the wheel right now with teams such as Arkansas Falcons, Baguette en Fromage, Chocolino Gang, HC Obszczymurki, HSHL Rookies, and Super Strikers. Majority of those teams are newcomers, and it is so good to see those new teams. And there's a little bit of me that hopes at least one of those teams surprises everyone and makes it into playoffs. Because theoretically, those are the teams that will finish in the bottom 3. But we see it happen a lot of times that those are the surprises. So let's spin the wheel for the first time and let's see which teams goes into Western Conference. We're gonna do it so the first spin goes to Western, second to Eastern, third to Western, blah blah blah. You guys know the drill. And the first team is HSHL Rookies, the origin of the league, you could say, that had many different coaches, captains, or however you want to call it, now managed by Greece, will be playing in Western Conference. Let's see another team, and that different team will go into Eastern Conference, and that is Arkansas Falcons, making their return after the World Cup, after previous season, and now will be playing in Eastern Conference. Let's spin the wheel again. We're gonna do it about 20 more times. So a lot of teams will be drawn, like Chocolino Gang, arguably one of the strongest teams in Pot 5, making it into Western Conference. So I'm guessing no matter what the other teams will be drawn, because Rookies and Chocolino are in Western, the higher seeded teams will prefer to be in Eastern Conference. And I believe ever since we've had conferences, that might be the first time Easter will be preferred for people who care about the stats. Let's spin the wheel again because I've talked a bit too much. And I'm gonna talk off topic as well while we're mixing up the teams, the conferences, as we now get HC Obszczymurki into Eastern Conference, because there's a lot of stuff happening in the league. So HC Obszczymurki will be going into the Eastern Conference. Just a little talk behind the scenes. So Flash, when you see that Sarah has updated the standings, I think you can spin the wheel without me telling you to do that. So that way it runs smoother. There we go. So the last team for Western Conference will be Super Strikers. And that, of course, means that Baguette en Fromage will be added into Eastern Conference. Fairly fair split between the conferences for the fifth poll, I would say. And I shouldn't say stuff like that because I was kind of responsible for making those spots, so I should say they're even. But like, let's be realistic. We know that not every team is even to another team in the same conference, in the same pot, sorry. And obviously there will be differences between that. So now that we've got fifth pot sorted, we're moving on to the higher seeded teams. We've got Aggressive Tigers making their return, another classic team. we've got HK Crvena Zvezda, or Haka, I think I should say. Peppa team, another returning team, but this time I don't think it is associated to the previous Peppa team, but I could be wrong there. And Worthless Souls. So those are the 4 teams that will be drawn out now, starting off with the Western Conference as well. And while the win is spinning, and as we are getting with it, Aggressive Tigers into Western Conference, let me just remind you or notify those who don't know that another thing returning this season is fantasy. It is opened as well. There's a lot of info about it in the Discord. There's prizes for the winners, such as Discord Nitro Boost. So it would be good for you to take part in that in that competition, as we get Hakat Crvena Zvezda into Eastern Conference. And I think everyone is just waiting for those higher seeded teams. We are seeing the numbers going up. We started with like 20 people, then 25, now 27. Crvena Zvezda is added into the Eastern Conference. But yeah, fantasy. That means that whenever I'm going to go back into commentating the game, I'm going to talk about it 24/7 again. And I know that was a thing of the past. Peppa team will be added into Western Conference. Many of you will not care about it. So there's some other info, such as the doc, the schedule. When will your team play? Let me just answer that. Before, let me just mention that Worthless Souls are being added into Eastern Conference, and pot 4 is completed. So we'll be moving into third pot, which has Athletic Reconnaissance. You could kind of say a traditional team. You know, there's plenty of stats gathered throughout the season. I would like to see a stat of like which team has participated in the most seasons. Because I know Athletic Reconnaissance will not be the winners of that, but they would be pretty high, I reckon. So that would be interesting to see. Maybe someone who was bored enough would be able to count that. But other teams in there are Hasan Anti-Studio Haka. We've got the runner-ups, the surprise of the last season, Koto Hokejowcy. However, they've lost their key players with Karim and mainly Evra. So I suppose that's the reason they are in pot 3. And then we've got Sezamki. So those are the 4 teams. Let's spin the wheel and let's find out another teams for Western Conference. But yeah, schedule. It is pre-prepared. However, we obviously need to know which teams end up in which conference to fully make up the matches, as we get Sezamki now into Western Conference. And for that, we need to firstly draw the conferences, which is what we're doing now. And then probably a few hours after this live stream, the schedule and the whole doc should be published. So you will be able to see not only like your first matchup, Kot Hokejowcy will be added into Eastern Conference, but at the same time you can see, for example, I don't know, your matchup in April or whenever that is, the whole schedule. This is also another thing for fantasy. You can, for example, see which team would be facing off the worst teams in the first few rounds. You can put them into your squad, then transfer them out later on. Hasan Anti-Studio Haka will be added into the Western Conference, as they are now added into the doc. And that, of course, means that Athletic Reconnaissance will end up in Eastern Conference. So there you guys have it. 2 more pots to go. Now it will be second pot. We are getting into the stronger teams. Although, like I said, Koto Hokejowcy last time, I think they may have been even fourth pot, but I could be wrong here. So surprises can definitely happen. But in the second pot is the start of the teams that you could kind of expect to see at the top. Maybe not favorites, but you wouldn't be that shocked to see them succeed. And those teams for this season are Bengal Tigers, Galactic Football, Gigabyte, and Repete. So let's spin the wheel and let's see which team ends up in which conference. And another thing, as there are about 30 people gathered in here that I wanted to mention, is Power Play. The magazine will be coming back for the next season as we get Gigabyte added into Western Conference. And Power Play with presentation of every single team, talk through, maybe not each player, but Like, you get the point. It is just kind of the show to learn a bit about every single team in the season. We'll be coming back tomorrow at 18:30 Central European time, of course. Repete now has been added into the Eastern Conference. And first off, obviously, I invite you to watch the show. It will be me hosting. I'm trying to get a co-host, but it is not confirmed yet, so I'm not gonna announce him. And most importantly for you, please prepare a guest if it's possible for you, and message Piotr about someone who can talk about your team. Like, for example, we've got Ulita Sezamkowa that will be coming up in pot 1, and actually, that's the wrong example. Let me say another one. You've got Amice Di Sesso, for example, and I know that Tvoja will be coming on to join and talk about his team. And while I was talking about the power play, we finished the second pot with Bengal Tigers getting added to Western Conference and Eastern Conference receiving Galactic Football. And now those are the big boys, the 4 main contenders to the title race. Amice Di Sesso, Carpathian Bears, Szare Ptaki, and Ulisa Sezamkowa. And there's 2 spots in each conference. So let's see where the big boys land and finish off this whole draw. Ulisa Sezamkowa is the first team, so we're gonna see the derby between Ulisa Sezamkowa and Sezamki, as they are both in Western Conference. So that's the first team that has been added to that. I'm trying to think whether I forgot to announce something that already was announced, but just to make it more public. Szare Ptaki have been drawn out. They will be added into Eastern Conference. The conference draw, the power play, League Dog, Fantasy. I think I've mentioned everything that I wanted to talk about. So let's finish off this draw then, as the last team to go into Western Conference is Carpathian Bears. And that, of course, means that Amice Di Sesso, and will be spinning just to clarify that. However, Amice Di Sesso will be the final team to end up in the Eastern Conference. So to sum it all up, just for you, it's also the moment where you can take the screenshot to have it on before the doc is published. But just for you once again, Western Conference consists of Carpathian Bears, Ulica Sezamkowa, Bengal Tigers, Gigabyte, Hassan Anti-Studio HK, Sezamki, Peppa Team, Aggressive Tigers, Super Strikers, Chocolino Gang, and HSHL Rookies, while Eastern Conference consists of Amice Di Sesso, Szare Ptaki, Galactic Football, Repete, Athletic Reconnaissance, Kodohokejowcy, Warches Souls, Haka Crvena Zvezda, Boget Onfumash, HCO Przymurki, and Arkansas Falcons. So thank you very much for joining us for this broadcast, and hopefully you're gonna enjoy the season. Please don't forget to tune in for tomorrow's Power Play show. And until tomorrow, stay safe.